What's up, Royals? Welcome to Tonitra's Garden. In today's video, I am going to be doing an update on the containers that we sowed a couple weeks ago. We direct sowed some warm season crops for the fall, and I'm going to show you how I fertilize my container crops so that I get the biggest harvest and I keep them thriving all season long. So let's go ahead and check it out and see how these plants are doing, and then I'll go ahead and show you how I fertilize them. So I'm so excited to show y'all. These plants have been doing so good. The weather has cooled a bit, so they're doing wonderful. Let me show you. All right, so in this first container, we have the straight neck squash. This is a yellow squash. It's the classic. So here she is in all her glory. Look how well these plants are doing in these containers. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. She is leafing out really nicely. We don't have any flowers or anything yet. We still have a couple, let me get out of the way. We still have a couple of weeks of growth on these plants before they start flowering and things like that. But I do want to fertilize them so that, you know, they can get nice and strong for when that time comes, and then the nutrients will be available to them when they do start to flower. So let's move on to the next. So over here we have the Vigo self-watering planter, and I really love this one because you just put the water in here and it waters the plants. It keeps the plants nice and moist, so you don't really have to worry too much. We have got some muncher cucumbers in here. Look how gorgeous. They are doing so good. When I planted these, I did do about 4 seeds, so I did thin them down to just 3 plants. So we have 3 plants in here, and they are all doing so beautiful. I am so excited. So there's the muncher cucumber. All right, this is our last container that we planted, and in this one I planted I think it's called the scallop bush squash. It's like a white little scalloped squash. It is so cute. I thought it would be perfect for the fall season, so I really wanted to try it out. It does really good in containers, and look how pretty. These plants are doing so good. I think the weather is just perfect right now to be growing the warm season crops. This is like our second chance, so I'm so happy with how everything is doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I use to fertilize my containers. So let's grab what we need. Woo! All right, Royal, so when I'm fertilizing my container plants, I like to use Garden Tone from Espoma. I really like this fertilizer. It works really good. I've had good success with it. So when I'm fertilizing, I usually don't measure, but for the purpose of you understanding how much fertilizer to use, we're gonna go ahead and measure. So for this container, this is a 22-gallon container. So for 22 gallons, you would use about a cup of this fertilizer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab some fertilizer. 1 scoop, 1 cup. We're just gonna come in here and sprinkle it all over the soil. Sorry, this plant has gotten kind of big. We're gonna sprinkle it all over the soil, and I'll give you a better view of how this looks after. This is 1 cup of fertilizer, and this is what the directions say. So let me get in here and show you kind of what that looks like. If you can see, that's what 1 cup of fertilizer looks like on top of the soil for a 22-gallon container. And of course, you don't want to just leave this fertilizer sitting on top of the soil. You want to scratch it in. So I'm going to go ahead and use my little fork, and I'm just going to scratch it into the first couple inches of the soil. Without harming the plant. And just work it in. Okay. And then I also like to use bone meal for root growth when my plants are just starting to grow nicely. So I'll just use about 2 tablespoons of bone meal for this plant. And just scratch that in as well. We have a 1 container fertilized with our granular fertilizer. I'm gonna go ahead and do these other 2, and then we're gonna finish it off with our last fertilizer. So let's go do that. Okay, so for this container, it's a bit bigger. So I'm going to do about 1.5 cups of fertilizer. Okay, so we're gonna do our 1.5 cups of fertilizer. It is getting heated out here, y'all. And then we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of bone meal, just to get these growing some nice strong roots. I'm gonna go ahead and scratch that into the soil. And the purpose of using a granular fertilizer is to feed your plants over time. So this nutrients won't be available to your plant right away, but as you water your plant, the fertilizer will start to break down and it will fertilize your plant over a couple months. So I would recommend to fertilize your plant with granular fertilizer about once a month. So I would do this once a month. Okay. And you just scratch it in so that it gets into the soil and it doesn't just dry on top of the surface. It actually can start to get broken down. So there we have it. Second container down. Let's work our way down to the 3rd container. All right, so in this container, I think this is about maybe a 5-gallon container. So I'm just gonna do 1/2 cup of fertilizer. But on a normal day, I would just eyeball it. I don't really think you can overly fertilize, but. And then I'm just gonna do 1 tablespoon of the bone meal right over top. And we'll scratch it in with our little fork. Couple inches into the soil is good. You can do this with your hands if you want to, however you want to do it. All right. So that looks good. So I have to move over here into the shade. It's getting a little hot. So we've got our granular fertilizer into the soil. So the last part of the fertilizing process is using a soluble fertilizer. And I like to use the Alaska fish fertilizer. I've been using this for years and it has never failed me. So I just continue to use it. I use this about once a week, maybe on like a Sunday or Monday, and I'll fertilize all my plants. And what the soluble fertilizer does is it gives your plants the nutrients that they need right now so that the plant can absorb it right now. It can absorb it today, which my plants need because they're starting to put on a lot of growth. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna do, this calls for 2 tablespoons per gallon of water. So I have a 2-gallon watering can that I'm gonna use, and we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of this, and I just eyeball it. So here's my 2-gallon watering can, and we're gonna do our 2 tablespoons of fish emulsion, fish fertilizer. So we're gonna do 1, 2, okay, and then drop for good measure. So that's about 2 tablespoons. And then we'll fill it up with water. So this needs to be mixed. So a little trick that I like to do is I like to use a spray setting on the nozzle that is pretty, what is the word, powerful, so that it mixes the fish emulsion on its own. All right, so it's already mixed. Let's go. So you can actually shower the leaves with this, and it'll soak up through the leaves and also the soil. So I'm just giving it a nice drench. All right, and then here we have our last container. Soak the soil nice and good, and get the plant leaves. And then the very last thing that I like to do is water the plants in with the water hose, just so that everything gets evenly distributed and soaked into the soil. So let's grab our water hose and just give them a little spray. All right, so our container plants are all fertilized and watered in, and I will update you guys on their growth in the next couple of weeks. So that wraps it up for today's video. I hope that this was helpful. I hope it really showed you it's super easy to fertilize your container garden. If this was helpful, give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you need seeds, check out my seed shop, and the description box below has everything that I use in this video, so check that out too. And I will see you in my next one. Keep blooming, Royals. Bye.